for those who read the Bible. As Moses stood before his people and said, I'm going to part the Red Seas, Traoré is expected to part Red Seas, almost to summon manna from heaven, almost to cause pillars of fire to stand between them and the neo-colonizers. The expectations are great. The situation as it is in the Sahel region must be understood at two levels. Level number one is that it has brought forth a new generation of leaders. And remember, it started in the year 2021 with the coup d'etat in Mali, when Atimi Goita overthrew the administration of Now. When he did that, the rebellion started, and immediately after that, there was the Burkina Faso coup in 2022, and immediately after that, in 2023, there was the coup in Niger. And immediately after that, you saw that they were expelled, and the three countries have moved out of the economic community of West African states and created their own one in the Sahel. And remember that that region is also infested by insurgencies who we think are also manufactured by the former colonizer France. Remember that that region has said we are having one currency. Remember they've said that we are allowing free movement of people. Remember that they are removing tariff and non-tariff barriers. Remember that the French have also ensured that their kin and kith in the West are hostile to those administrations and, of course, by extension, hostile to Burkina Faso. Remember that they were exploiting the uranium. Remember they were exploiting their minerals. Remember that they saw these as satellite states, and it is for that reason why Russia became attractive as a trusted ally. And many in the West sometimes don't understand why Russia is attractive as an alternative to the Western countries. The history is long, but let us cut it short. Russia was not a colonizer, despite attempts by some Western historians to say that they attempted to colonize in Africa. They did not. So there is no colony of Russia. And even when the Soviet Union existed prior to the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1989, and we use the word Russia as if it was the same as the Soviet Union. At least that is what happened in many parts of Africa. And what did they do? They were seen in the early days to be positive supporters of African initiatives. In Egypt, during the administration of Gamal Abdel Nasser, when the West had refused to build the Aswan High Dam, it is the Russians who came. In Ghana, the Russians were friendly to Kwame Nkrumah, of course, then a Soviet Union. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, when the UN had refused and or failed to come in aid of Patrice Emery Lumumba, it is the Russians who are called, and then Lumumba was called a communist. So the Russians were also present in Angola to support NATO. They were present in Mozambique to support Mondlane and Machel. They were present in Zimbabwe to support Nkomo and Mugabe. They were present to support the African National Congress in South Africa. Their presence in Africa has been seen as positive. And they have been seen as a friend who does not want to humiliate and dominate. They may have their interest in having minerals. They may have their interest, as indeed every country does, but they are people you can call friends, not fair weather friends. And it is in that context that then they become a natural choice for two reasons. One, historical. Secondly, because they have the military wherewithal. Remember that this world is the law of the jungle. And if you have a friend who is feared by your enemy, then that does guarantee your security. And it's that context, therefore, that you see Russia have become, in many ways, the protectors of this administration at the request of the administration. Because if it were not so, history tells us that you can be eliminated. And we have had many rumors of attempts at the life of Ibrahim Traoré and These colonizers, they don't do so directly. They use your very own. They create fifth columnists within your very own system. And if you had any doubt, how did they eliminate Thomas Isidore Noel Sankara? Through the people that he thought were his friends. In Kiswahili we say, kikulacho kingoni mwako. That which bites you is inside the clothes that you wear. And that is why you need friends who will stand by you, come rain or shine. And for the moment, the Russians have demonstrated that they are such friends. You know, when one talks about friendship, particularly in this harsh world where in truth it can be said there is a new scramble for Africa, in this harsh world where the European powers, former colonizers, are losing their territory and influence one by one, in this harsh world where the Western countries, the conceptual West, believe that they are losing their territories to Russia and China, to be a friend of Russia is to invite enemies from the West. And that is why you see, using even African institutions, they threaten Burkina Faso, they threaten Mali, they threaten Niger. Using different methods, they try to ensure that they drain water out of your pond so that you cannot survive. So in the short to medium term, it is going to be a difficult time. Difficult because they'll try to choke you. They'll try to ensure that they create an environment where your people rise up against you. They'll try to ensure that there is dissatisfaction. So going forward, what I would myself suggest is that the engagement be structured and be beyond human beings. Human beings can only exist for so long. But in order to ensure that friendship is guaranteed, the friendship between Burkina Faso and Russia must look beyond Traoré and beyond Putin. And that can be done by ensuring that the engagements are of mutual strategic interest for the countries, so that if it is in agriculture, if it is in the mining sector, if it is in tourism, if it is military, then those structures are put in place, and 100 years from today, holding all factors constant, they can survive those who entered into them as agreements. You know, when Traoré came to power, and let us retrace the history again, that he came to power after Compaoré had been removed and had sought asylum outside of the country, I think in La Côte d'Ivoire. He came to power after Jean-Marc Christian Kabore's administration had been taken away. He came to power after Damiba had been taken away. And when he came and he appeared to be relieving and reviving what I call the Sankaraist philosophy, he became an immediate enemy of Paris, led by Macron. And Macron, you see, has carried himself almost as the latter-day Napoleon Bonaparte. To the extent that he has done so, anybody who is not towing the line, Macron, I think, sees himself, and this is subject to debate, not only as Napoleon Bonaparte, but also as Charles de Gaulle. And in that regard, he believes that the territories which were colonized by them must behave. Remember in 1958, after the yes-no vote, in which case only Sékou Touré of Guinea voted no, they used to refer to former French colonies as territoire de haute mer. These are our foreign territories in the distant land. So when you break loose, as Burkina did, says, what is happening here? Who do they think they are? Do they think they can withstand France? So it is personal anger. It is ego that has been hurt And that can be dangerous. Hence, the reaction that you see from Paris. In other words, from the standpoint of Paris, Ibrahim Traoré and his compatriots are giving a bad example to otherwise good boys and girls.